You've just learned a little bit about me from a podcast. You've been through a learning experience. What has happened? You've learned about my name, a little bit about where I'm from, my interests, my workplace, and a little bit about this workshop is about. Did you learn that? Can I just check that that's what he said? You didn't learn that I like to dress as a lady at the weekend or anything? No. Okay. Right. Your learning experience was from a podcast. There's lots of podcasts. Podcasting became popular around 2004. There's around about 4,000 podcasts. By July 2005, there was estimated to be 3 million podcasts. By December 2005, just a few months later, 20 million. Middle of the next year, 266 million. I tried to find out how many podcasts there are now available on the web, and on AnswerBag it says there's just too many. There's too many to count. There's far too many. Now, if we take a podcast as a resource to learn from, there's a learning process that we go through. We listen to a podcast, and we learn. Okay? Now, traditionally, what's missing from this? I'll ask my first question: what's missing from this process? Traditionally, with learning, teacher. Yeah. Would that make more sense? Would that make more sense for a learning process? You have a podcast that's delivered by a teacher to a learner. Right, in this workshop, what we're going to look at is what's become popular in the social web over the last 5 years. We're going to look at how this affects the way that we teach, and more importantly, how it affects how our learners learn. And we're also going to look at how this affects the business of education and training. Now, I come from a college where I don't think you have an exactly replicated system in Poland of colleges, but it's between school and university, and we deliver within certain teaching models. However, I want you, because I think this is based on management, most people are managers within training companies or on behalf of managers in training companies. Am I right in thinking that? Yes? I want you to think of it almost as a business model as well. So it's a changing business model, it's a changing teaching model. It's how your target market, your learners, how they are starting to learn, and how you need to reflect in that to become more successful in learning and within teaching. So we've got the beginnings of the social web. My quick timeline along here. In 1998, Google began. Now, Google, a search engine that allowed us to really get a lot of access to information on the web. We also have Blogger. Do you use Blogger at all? Are you familiar with blogging as a concept? People writing and then taking it as an RSS feed and then being able to spread that around the web. We also have iTunes as well, which is based on RSS feeds as well. So in the first kind of late 90s, early noughties, we had the first RSS use. We then move on a little, and we have Macromedia Breeze, that then became Adobe Connect, some of the first webcasting software. And we also have Facebook, something which I don't know about here, but in the UK, teachers hate Facebook because students waste so much time on it. Yeah, I think that happens everywhere. They don't like me because you'll find out why. We also have YouTube, which started in February 2005. And by this point, there was a real uptake of use of RSS feeds. So everything, podcasts, video, blogs, microblogging as well, Twitter, really started to become very popular. And I would argue that there's a tipping point in the use of the internet here, when people really started to use the internet and share a lot of information around there that people could learn from. If we look at internet traffic growth, we have, there's a light on it, I think it does somewhere. Yeah, we have the late 90s. Throughout there, kind of steady growth of use of information on the internet. This is information in exabytes, which I've put there 1 million terabytes. I think it's actually 1,000 terabytes. But use of information, now in 2005, you'll see that rapidly started to go up, and it started to pick up here with the introduction of these social networks, social medias, and I think arguably from the introduction of YouTube, it really started to spike up as more information through video started to flow around. Now, around about this time as well, there was a change in social structure, and I'm going to use an example which is shopping, and something which I do a lot, which is music shopping. Now, I used to work in a company when I was a student called Woolworths. And has anyone been to the UK and seen a store of Woolworths? Yes? You might know a bit of the recent history of Woolworths as well. I'm from Kirkcaldy, as I explained. And if we take Woolworths and me, the consumer, there's a kind of a close kind of relationship that I had with Woolworths, which was if I wanted a CD and I was in Kirkcaldy, Woolworths was the only shop that sold CDs. There were bigger department stores for CDs, but they were in the cities. Now, we've got the high street in Kirkcaldy, we've got Woolworths, and I go to the Woolworths, and they're almost guaranteed my business because I'm kind of trapped within this geographical location. It involves me traveling somewhere to find this. So Woolworths made a lot of money. They were a very successful company. Now, that was before the tipping point, the 2005 tipping point. If we then look after that, what happened? Suddenly, we had companies such as Play, Amazon. Are you familiar with these? HMV and Virgin, the big mega stores on the high streets in the cities, they started to sell online as well. There was also independent retailers, so anyone could really set up a shop and start selling CDs online. Suddenly, Woolworths had a lot of competition for selling CDs. And it was outside this geographical location that the geographical location suddenly became kind of, it didn't really matter anymore because I could walk down the street and buy a CD, but I could also go onto my computer and buy from lots of other places. There's also downloads and streaming media, so iTunes started to sell MP3s, so you could just download it and have it instantly. You didn't even have to wait for delivery. There was also Amazon started to sell MP3s. A lot of people in the UK listen to music on YouTube as well because music videos are posted up. They're not supposed to be, but they're still there, and it means there's competition. And there's also, Pirate Bay, people downloading music illegally, and that became very quick. If you had to take into account that you could travel to a store in Edinburgh or in a city to buy a CD to get that competition with Woolworths, or you could get it for free, then a lot of people went with this. And they shouldn't have, though. For the consumer, what did it mean? You had choice and convenience. So they had a lot more choice of where they bought from. If Woolworths sold a CD for £14, Play might sell it for £8, and I know which one I would go for, because the choice gives me the difference between the prices and I save some money, but also convenience, they deliver it straight to my door. For the business, this meant there was a lot more competition. So Woolworths suddenly had a huge amount of competition to deal with. And the competition were more creative. I mean, even Play were selling CDs, but they were still posting out a physical CD. iTunes really changed everything because they were more creative with the way they were delivering music. They had an MP3 that could be delivered instantly. So that meant, again, Woolworths they weren't kind of being as competitive, they weren't being as creative. As I say, I worked for them. Late on in kind of 2005, 2006, they came up with their own online delivery service. It wasn't that great, and I probably shouldn't say that, it's going to be broadcast live on the web, but it wasn't that great. It didn't really have competition with these people. It definitely didn't have competition with these people, and Woolworths, one of the UK's real institution shops, went down with the recession and completely just crashed. It's not anything anymore. Lots of people lost their jobs. So what does that relate to education? Now I'm just going to quickly have a glass of water. I've also had a cold recently, so I've got a really sore throat. What was our Woolworths for education? I have put down these. I'll open it up. If anyone wants to add anything, they can. But I think that as far as Kirkcaldy High Street goes, very close to the college I was in actually, they have their friends and family they can learn from. They have their institution's VLE, so an institutionalized virtual learning environment held on an internal network. They have television, their local library, their training company, their lecturer or teacher, clubs and groups they attend, and their colleagues. So there's lots of places they can learn from within this geographical location. If we now open up to what's now available to our learners to learn from, we have social media sites such as YouTube, which has lots and lots of learning material on it. Search engines where you can go on, and if I'm at work and I want to learn a new skill that I can learn quickly, I'll search for it on Google and I'll just find it and then I learn it. Microblogging, which I'll come back to later on. Blogs, which I subscribe to a lot of blogs. I learn a lot from a lot of blogs. Google services such as Google Scholar, which Aslav referred to earlier on. Webcasts, podcasts, and social networks where people are learning from each other and sharing information with each other. Now I'll go back to my Woolworths diagram. What we have is our resources at the top. This is pre-tipping point. This is just before 2005, when I argue that everything became incredibly busy on the internet. We have our friends and family, training company, television. Now, these are very institutionalized, and it's very linear the way that these are delivered. We have this information, and although not all of them come through the teacher, the majority of them are structured through the teacher or the training company and delivered to the learner. So it's a model which suits teachers. You have, the choice is very limited by location. You can, I don't know how widely spread educational institutions are in Poland, but where I work, I live in Kirkcaldy, and everyone from the local area who wants to go to college goes to my college. If you go 50 miles north, then they will go to their local college. It's very, very localized. The resources from here are filtered by teachers and trainers, so they basically give the student what they want the student to learn, not what the student wants to learn. This, again, it's prescribed. The institutions will write what students need to learn, and therefore it's a model that focuses on assessment and accreditation. So an institution such as mine will be assessed by the government on how many students pass. So for example, I teach a course, I am given a unit by my educational institution, and I have to deliver what it says there in order to get a pass, and then I get a pat on the back and they say well done. The student leaves with a piece of paper that says that they know something, but they perhaps don't know as much as they should do about it. Now, if we look at the other form, we have this kind of diagram where the learner is now at the center of their learning. They decide what they want to learn. They have the geographical location. They still have access to all of these. They can still go and watch television. They can visit their family and friends. They can learn from training companies. But the way that I think culturally, socially, people now accept each other and they accept resources to them, they decide what they want. So socially, a student isn't defined by the geographical location anymore. There was a good example that was given to me at another conference that was 50 years ago. If I grew up in a town, I would become friends with the people who lived on that street regardless of their interest. So my friend next door to me may be a painter, the person down the road will be a builder, we'll play football together, we'll be friends, we'll learn from each other, but we're not interested in the same things. Children now, who are growing up, will be friends with other people on Facebook, on Bebo, on other social networks, and they'll start to find each other due to their interest rather than where they live. And that's the same with education. They can find out information from the people on their street, but they can find people that are interested in the same thing as them on social networks. They can find information on what interests them on their social media. They can look for it on search engines. They can search for it on Twitter, Google, blogs. They can attend webcasts for information. Someone who isn't in Poland today will be in America, and they'll be able to watch this because they have an interest in webcasting. So, it's a learner-centered teaching model which empowers the learner. It lets them learn what they want to know rather than what we want to teach them. It increases the volume of resources for them. As I said earlier on, there's far too many podcasts to watch anymore. I think there's a statistic like there's 14 days worth of video goes onto YouTube every hour. It's a ridiculous amount, and a lot of that is learning materials. It teaches students how to learn independently, which is what I'm going to move on to next, which is students who learn from teachers, they are given information. The way that they now learn and the way that suits them culturally is that they go and look for things and they take that beyond the classroom. When they leave the classroom, they go home, they go onto Facebook, and they still keep on learning. And that deinstitutionalizes learning. It makes it less like a situation where they go to school and they learn and then they go home and they don't learn. They start to learn all the time. For the learner, that means there's choice and convenience. Okay? They can choose where they learn for, they choose what they learn, and the convenience is it's there right in front of them at their fingertips there all the time. For us, for me as a teacher, for you as trainers, as training companies, there's a lot more competition now, and we have to be a lot more creative with the way that we teach people. Now let's look at webcasting as a model of this. Okay? So webcasting, we're all reasonably familiar with webcasting if we're here today, yes? Am I right to think that? So a webcast, we have a teacher that delivers information to students through a computer. Now, if you asked a lot of people who teach what is the center of that diagram, they would say it's the teacher. The teacher is at the center, and they're delivering to all these people. However, now that it's become more learner-centered, it's not just the webcast that this person will be learning from. They will learn from a social network, they'll learn from YouTube, they'll learn from a blog, they'll learn from a microblog. So suddenly it puts the learner right at the center. I was speaking with someone recently about distance learning and distance teaching. So we have distance learning. Do you use the term distance learning at all? In the UK, we speak of distance learning as we deliver learning to people at distance. What the person I was speaking to was arguing is that now it's distance teaching, because we are delivering a resource to people. We teach at distance. We don't let people learn at distance. Okay, so it's learner-centered. Right, first activity is going to give me a little break from teaching and give you a break from listening to me. I'll give you 5 minutes, and what I want you to do is write down your 3 main rivals to your business, or the business you work for. So, entities which affect your business and who your students could choose from. Okay? Do you want to take just a couple of minutes and just think them through? Okay, has everyone had a bit of time to think? Now don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to call out who your competitors are just in case they're in the same room and there's any rivalry. What I want you to ask yourself is, are they located in the same city? Or we'll go through them. Who wrote down 3 competitors that are located in the same city as them? Yeah? All 3, or just a couple? How about in the same country? They're in Poland. Would you consider them to be in Poland? Yeah? How about the same continent? European? Yeah, definitely European. Are they another business? Is it another training business? Is it an educational institution? Okay, right. Would you consider these establishments to be your competition for training? Yeah? So we've got Oxford, we've got Harvard, we've got Stanford. For the people who live in Poland, who live in Warsaw, if you're from Warsaw, Adam Smith College. I love putting Adam Smith College next to Cambridge and Oxford and Harvard and Stanford. It feels great every time. A lot of people wouldn't consider these to be competition for them because they're so prestigious, they're very expensive to get into, and they're a long way away. People wouldn't go to them. However, because of the web and the way that things have developed in the web, these institutions are now delivering a lot more information. So, we have Oxford. Are you familiar with iTunes U? Do people use iTunes U here? Is everyone familiar with iTunes U, or no? For those that aren't, I'll just explain briefly. iTunes U is part of iTunes. If you're not familiar with iTunes, if you buy an iPod from Apple, you plug it into your computer, you use iTunes to sync all your music to it, so you use it to manage your music. Within that, as I was saying earlier on, iTunes sell MP3s, and they're very cleverly, you can listen to music here, you can buy music here. So you go into the iTunes store, where it's got all the different kind of, pop groups, rock groups, selling albums there, and they recommend things to you. What it also has is iTunes U, which is free educational content. So within the iTunes store, there's an entire store, an entire part of the store, equal with films, music, which is all educational information. And there's a lot of universities and colleges which are giving away information there. It supplements their courses, but there's also essentially full courses of lectures there. So does anyone teach business skills that's in the room today? No? Okay, let's pretend that someone did. I thought that was a good one to go with because generally there's always business skills. Here we have a full course on building a business for free from Oxford University, one of the greatest universities in the world. Okay, so you can go on, and there are a series of hour-long lectures which take you through from start to finish how to set up a business and how to become a young startup entrepreneur. Okay, now if you were teaching business skills and you had a series of 10 lectures which you delivered in-house to trainers for a cost of, I'm not sure, I'm not very good with the exchange rate for zloty, so I'll say in pounds, but generally you would charge, a few £1,000s to bring someone in and they would deliver these courses. But if it's for free from Oxford, and I was a manager, I would go with that. I would say, go and have a look at this. Harvard, another competitor, arguably, because we have YouTube. Is anyone familiar with YouTube Edu? It's almost YouTube's answer to iTunes U. So YouTube have now got a directory of educational institutions on their site. If you go to YouTube/edu, it comes up with hundreds and hundreds of colleges and universities from around the world. And they share and store lectures, classes, all sorts of information. I'll ask again with a bit of hope, although this was a bit more of an outside chance. Does anyone deliver any kind of mobile development course? So do you developing applications for an iPhone? No? Okay, well. YouTube Edu from Stanford, you can view a whole course on how to develop iPhone applications. So in the college, I work with a research and development unit, and we develop iPhone applications for education. And the way that one of my colleagues learned, basically, sorry, can you turn your phone off? Can you just turn it on silent? I know that I'm speaking about iPhone applications and things just now, so it seems a bit strange, but it's just catching my ear. He learnt a lot of Cocoa is the coding language for iPhone applications. He learnt a huge amount of development from this. Now, we could have gone and sent him on a course that would cost us hundreds, thousands of pounds, but instead you just managed to learn it from there, alongside other kind of blogs, information that's available. Now, a bit more of a different one. Do you consider these as competitors? Would anyone ever consider Facebook as a competitor rather than an enemy of their teaching? No? Okay. This is a bit from my Facebook page, and this is a magazine that I follow on Facebook. Now, I'm quite bad. I look at Facebook a lot. I think if you log onto Facebook at any time between the hours of 6 in the morning and 12 o'clock at night, I'm probably sitting there. But it's because I just have it open all the time, and it's because I follow a lot of information that comes through on it. From Smashing Magazine, they deliver, if we look here, we've got CSS courses for style sheet coding, which is something that I deal with. I deal with a lot of web design. A piece about how to make beautiful email newsletters, so e-zines, how we can send them out. This is a Flash course, so it's a piece about developing information or developing an animation in Flash. That's the top 3 on there. That probably gets updated about 12 times a day. Something else pops up, and now and again I see it and I think, that looks interesting, I'm going to look at that, I learn something new. Again, I could go to a training company and learn that, but I don't, it's just right there in front of me. To be honest with you, a lot of the time I wouldn't even think about going to learn that. It's just because it's there, I gain knowledge from it. Twitter. Is Twitter popular here? Twitter's only really started to become really popular in the UK in the last kind of 2 years, 3 years. Before that, as a concept, people just didn't get it. They thought, what is the point in putting all my little thoughts onto Twitter? Why do people care what I had for breakfast? But there's a huge number of different uses for it. So with Twitter, I follow lots of people here. These are my friends. That's how I find out what they had for breakfast. Here, I work in e-learning and I work in web design. So I have e-learning searches and web design searches happening all the time. And I sit on my computer, and when I'm not on Facebook and I'm actually doing some work, there's still updates that pop up in the top corner, which says, so-and-so has just put up a piece about ubiquitous technology and adaptive learning. and I think that looks like an interesting piece, I'll read that. And a lot of it's articles about e-learning, the same with web design. However, if we look here, e-learning's top 100 tools for learning. Now that is in competition with me because I come here today and I deliver information to you about what I feel are e-learning tools. However, that could pop up on your screen and you could read it from your desk and you don't even need to be looking for it, it's just delivered to you. For web design, got user interface guidelines for mobile and tablet web apps. So there's a huge amount of information there you can learn from. Again, you could send someone to a training company to learn that, or they could just be keeping an eye on this and every now and again reading an article. We've also got marketing, and this one is Vancouver web design for marketing smart to offer internet marketer training. Now, you probably have to pay for that, but I would think it's probably delivered as a webcast. So suddenly there's a company in Vancouver who are in competition with you, and they've beaten you to letting your target market know that they're delivering training. Okay, so you've got a bit of competition going there. Now, the next discussion is how can we differentiate our companies from others? Now, I'd like you to just, I'll give you 5-10 minutes again. Just have a quick think about it. Think about what I've spoken about. You might not agree with what I'm saying, but if you do, then just have a little think about how you can differentiate yourself from your competitors and your new competitors, and then we'll just share these ideas around, okay? So, we've got 5-10 minutes. Just to give you time signal from the back, so cut it back to 10 minutes to maybe just a few minutes. If you give it 10 minutes, we won't have time to discuss it. In fact, another idea, which is going to differentiate me from my competition, if you write them down on a piece of paper and leave them at the end, I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, I'm very aware that time is marching on. So, how can you be different? And here are just a few ideas which can just differentiate you from your competition, bring your company ahead of the game from them by using these resources. So, empower your learners. It's a statement, but it's very true. Place your learner at the center of their learning and accept the fact that you are a resource, okay? So accept that you're a fraction of the learner's resource. When you go to teach someone something, don't go in with the attitude that I am going to give you all that you're going to learn about this subject. When you go in to speak to them, teach them, but also introduce them to other areas that they can learn from. So say to them, right, what I've told you is very interesting. There is also a really good presentation from Harvard University about this. And then as they start to gather these resources, they'll probably use you more because you give them more of a learning experience. Provide other supplementary resources. So we're filming this today to deliver it as a podcast. Why not? Do you have flip cameras in Poland? Have they become popular? There's little cameras that you get just now in the United Kingdom called flip cameras, and they're a bit bigger than that. They've got a great big red button on them, and you press it. It costs around about £100. You press the big red button, and it records up to an hour of HD video. and then you can take it, and it's got a USB that pops out the bottom. You plug it into your computer, and then you've got a video, and it's even got a function of software that can upload straight to YouTube. So it's really, really easy. Okay, so provide free learning as well. People love free things. I love free things. All that information is free to me. It's great. If I find something that's really good, that's free, such as there's a company called lynda.com which do a lot of online training and online training courses. I started off just by watching their free information and getting their free podcast. I thought it was really good. Now I part with £12 a month and I give it to them, and they get a huge amount of revenue from that. Facilitate independent learning as well as teaching. So continue to deliver to people, show them again where to learn from, and even set up Facebook pages, set up Twitter feeds, and start to share information with them and get them to learn for themselves. But it'll keep you in their mind all the time if you're helping them. So how am I going to be different? This presentation will be edited to reflect the discussion in the workshop. So I would like, if anyone has had what they think is a great idea of how they can differentiate their company, I'd like to leave the piece of paper with me. What I'll do is I'll take this bit out, and I'll take this bit out actually, and I will add your ideas into this before I share it online with you, so that the work that's in the discussion you can have. You don't have to depend on your own notes. The presentation will be made available online, and the video of the workshop will be made available online. So I will take this presentation and share it online for you, and you can go back and review it and watch it again as much as you want with the piece I've added in. You can also watch the video again. The locations of where it will be provided via social networks, so you don't have to get in contact with me or anything. I'm going to give you my Twitter account, I'm going to give you a Facebook group, and I'm going to give you my email address. And if you want it, then you can either follow me on Twitter, you can find this presentation, you can also find other information I share on there as well. And invite you to access further information and research I share on these networks through this, okay? So once you have added me on Twitter, added me on Facebook, you've then found this presentation, then you can keep on finding out the information I deliver to people, okay? Now, got time for question, answer, and further discussion, but I think we're probably running quite short on time now. Got 2 minutes. If anyone has a further question quickly, then now's the time to do it. If not, I'll be floating around afterwards, just you can grab me. Anyone want to ask a quick question? Or? Nope? Does anyone know? When to earn money? I think that by delivering training in this way where it's free, it keeps you in people's eyes, because if I have a company that I pay for something, unless it's really good, I'll probably not really think about them again. If people start giving me good information that's free, then I will add them on Twitter, and then suddenly they start to pop up in my peripheral vision every couple of minutes, every couple of hours. And then when I think I need more information on this, then I will go to them for training. Okay, so it's about kind of getting people to listen to you all the time, so that when you say we have something you can now buy, then they do it. Okay? Does that answer your question okay? Anyone else? Okay, right. Thank you. Calum Thomson. That's my email address. That's the Facebook group, and that's where I tweet. So feel free to go online, find me, follow me, say hi anytime you want, and thank you very much for listening to me.